Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm James McConnell.
Thank you for joining us again. You hate the intro part the most.
I do.
I know. Next time I'll say your name.
I'm James McConnell. Bang!
Back at it!
Back at it again. Coming in hot. We got a Starbucks coffee, not a sponsor. Anyway, doing big stuff here in the Casa de Turner.
Well, thank you guys again for joining us this week. This is kind of a continuation from last week when we were talking about how much money you need to start your contracting company, what you need to be doing to get going. This is going to be a two-part series on how to pay yourself. We did a how to pay yourself as an owner two and a half years ago, probably. So we're retouching that, but we're doing a deeper dive into it.
So many moons ago.
And James wasn't a part of that one. So this will be, we'll take your new take.
Brand new, fresh perspective.
Yes.
And it's going to be hot.
Yes. James is like a financier. Like when you think money, it's think James.
Money, tech. Money and tech is like.
If your Wi-Fi is broken, go to James.
Talk to me.
All right, so today the title of this is "Pay Yourself Right: From Chaos Draws to a Real Owner's Salary," right? And so this week is going to be talking about like the front end, how to get going on doing this, and then next week we're going to talk about the book that we love. That if you haven't read it this week. Start listening to it on audiobook, whatever it is. It's called Profit First. Mike Mikowski or something like that's his name.
You're crushing it.
Should have done some
Listen
research.
to it on Snuffleupagus app or whatever the hell
and
his
it's
name's.
Michael. It's something. But anyways, it's a really good book. We next podcast is kind of a book report on that. It's how we think money should be managed. We do a little bit differently. It's kind of the contractor's version of the Profit First method. But the next week will be a really good one. So today is diving into understanding and kind of setting up how to get money in the background, how to start storing money, and how to start getting to the spot that you can actually have different bank accounts and move stuff around the right way and have owner distributions. So starting off with this, I think it's best to set it up as really the different sizes of companies, the different spots I see guys coming into coaching. One being guys still swinging the hammer, out there doing the work, doing the labor. And James, why don't we, if you can for me, I talk fast and I kind of go through the stuff quickly and numbers I get lost in. So treat yourself as the contractor. Treat yourself as if you would be kind of like the contractor learning this stuff in terms of pick me apart.
I'll act as if I don't understand what you're saying. Perfect. And can't keep up with the speed in which you're speaking. Yeah. And I'll act as if that's the case.
That would be great. Thank you so much. But pick apart what I'm saying if I get running too fast. So starting off, guys swinging the hammers. Guys out there, tool belts on, they do 2 jobs at a time, 3 jobs. They're doing most of the work themselves. They're subbing out the electrical and plumbing, but they're doing most of the work themselves, but they're out in the field with their tools. Those guys, I think what I want to see from that style of a contractor as they're growing their company is we need to start separating out profit for the company versus pay for your job. In those roles, oftentimes those guys, and we said this on last week's podcast, they look at a job and say, hey, I charge $500 a day for my time for me to mobilize and get out there. That's a 4-day job. I'm going to charge you $2,000 for me to come out and do that job. That you're selling your time for money.
And in this scenario, the contractor, all they're thinking about is how much does it cost? Like, what is my time worth?
Yes, exactly. They're selling they're literally exchanging their hours for dollars. They're working
$400 a day, 5-day job, $2,000. That's what we're talking now.
Like they're working at Home Depot or McDonald's. Like you're just getting hourly pay, daily pay. And so those
Brewster's, Quiznos.
What are other Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, there's people that work there. So when you're viewing that, and we touched on it last week about how on those jobs you need to be building in more than just your time because it's not 4 days. It's not 5 days on the job site. It's a day and a half before doing an estimate. You drove out there last week to get your eyes on the job and put things together. The day before you went to Home Depot and bought some materials.
The same way that you describe, and I'm sure you've talked about this on other podcasts, but the same way that you sell the vendors and crews that you're working with on working with you is the stuff that you're saying guys aren't accounting for those things when they're doing their own hammer swinging.
Absolutely. That nail on the head. So the like we lay out on the onboarding subs, where it's like I'm doing all of this other work in blue, the little part in red that you're doing, the labor itself, that's what you're getting paid for, and I'm getting paid for everything else. Mm-hmm. That's the everything else that you don't charge for when you're a one-man show, right? Yeah. It's like, I need this job, and if I got $500 a day, I'm great. Well, you're not working 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month at $500 because you've got all this other work that you're doing. You're running around, you're picking stuff up, you're making returns, you're hunting money down, you're doing accounting, you're meeting with your CPA. Like, there's so much work that you're doing for free for your company because you're only charging for the actual middle labor part that you're doing. Yeah. So what we want you to start doing is find your price point. And we've talked profit percentages a ton. There's not a right one. It's individually depending on the size of the job. If you're a one-man show and you're doing one job at a time, you're charging $500 a day and that's it, you got to be 50% profit on that for your company to survive. If you're doing large-scale stuff, some commercial jobs are cost plus at 10% and they're killing it because it's a $20 million job, and that's okay to make $2 million on that in the next 9 months as we do the project, right? So don't get stuck on profit percentage. We aim for 35-ish%. It used to be 32, 30. We're trying to kind of creep that up a little bit and really find the right clientele at 35, sometimes 40. But I know we slide the scale, right? On a $20,000 job, we're making 50%. Mm-hmm. On a $120,000 job, we're making 40%. On a $300,000 job, we're making 35%. And it scales along with how much work we're doing. So don't get lost and stuck on the numbers of what your markup should be. If you want to talk through your job, your specific what you do, you want to know, assessment of your percentage you should be at, call me. Hit me up on our website. I'd love to chat with you about that. Either way, we need that markup on top of how much it costs you for your day labor, how much you need to make yourself. And finding that number is a whole different animal of, in my market, I need to be making $80,000 a year. I work at most 4 days a week for 50 weeks a year, and you can do the math on that. Some guys, as they get better and get older and have more of a clientele, they raise that up, and I need to be at 150 a year. I need to be at 180 a year. Whatever it is, I get paid for the work that you're doing separately than that profit markup, and don't pay yourself out of that profit markup. So when you're that one-man show, I want you to say, okay, I need $500 a day. I'm going to charge $2,000 for these 4 days. And then as a company, I want the company to make an extra $1,000 on top of that. So I'm charging this client $3,000 for the work. I'm going to pay myself $2,000 for the work I did this week. And that last $1,000 is going to go into my bank. That last $1,000 is going into cash flow. That last $1,000 is not being Venmoed to me personally. It's being deposited into my company account. And if you have a personal account and a business account separated, we put it all in the business account, and then I take my $2,000 for the labor I did into my personal and pay it out to myself.
This is not a joke, but in this scenario, the $2,000, does that include material, or is that in the $1,000, or was the client supplying the material?
In that example, I wasn't buying materials. Okay. So on my example on that would be, hey, I've got $1,000 or $500 of material, so I'm charging them $35, and so it's like $2,000 for labor, $500 for materials, and $1,000 for profit. Right. Trying to be simplistic and not marking up materials is easier when you're getting going. Especially when you're dealing one-on-one with a homeowner who's like, well, I'll just go out there and buy it. No, let me just handle it. You're going to buy the wrong thing. It's going to make me be here for an extra 2 days. Yeah. All that being said, what we want is we want you to pay yourself twice. We want you to get paid for that $2,000 for the work, and I want $1,000 in the bank. We're going to talk next week about how to spend that $1,000 in the bank and what accounts and how to pay tax and all that stuff. But mostly, we want to start building up to, usually what I like to see is 1 month of revenue in the bank. So if you're a company doing $100,000 a month, Let's have $100,000 nest egg. That money's going to go up and down depending on cash flow. And hey, we're on 3 big jobs. And so we're 2 of the jobs we don't get paid till the end. So that 100,000 is down to 40,000, but I get that money back and it goes up to 120, right? That sort of cash flow to where my standard, if I had my accounts receivable counted along with my bank account, is as averaging $100,000 if I'm doing $100,000 a month, right? That being said, we're going to get into that later. Let's stay ground floor here. I want to live off that labor. I want to live off that $2,000 a month. If I need all $2,000 for those 4 days, if I need all $3,000 to live and I'm staying busy, right? Not if you're working 1 week a month, but if you're staying consistently busy and you can't live off of the labor price, you got to raise your labor prices, not steal your profit, right? We got to get, okay, 500's a lot. If you're charging 300 a day, and then all of a sudden it's like, I feel like I'm working a lot and I'm just breaking even. You got to go up to 400 a day. We got to bump that up, and we still got to make profit on top of that. So no matter what you're charging, whether it's 200 a day, 500 a day, 800 a day, I don't care what your level of expertise that you're charging, I got to see profit above and beyond that number built in for the company to survive. Because if you're spending all of your profits the 1 month you have a bad week, right? 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Now where I'm getting money. All right, that's kind of the self operators, the in the field, the hammer swingers. Going into the project manager operators, right? Those guys that are actually running as a true GC that isn't doing work, isn't swinging hammers, but is general contracting all of the work on their job sites. I want to do it the same exact way, except that we're going to have an extra layer in the middle. So as a GC, James, you are out there, you're not swinging a hammer. You've got 5 jobs going on right now. You got 2 about to start. You're managing all your crews. Your labor and materials, let's say, are $10,000 for number's sake. We need to do a big enough markup that we can pay a project manager salary to you out of that markup and still have the money left over in the account for the company to be growing and making money. And we're diving in deep into what those numbers should look like in a second. But just to understand conceptually, I want the profit, the 30% can't be 100% of your PM payroll. So if I'm $10,000 of labor this month and I marked it up and I'm making $3,000 of profit this month, A, you're not going to survive on that. But B, I need you to take $2,000 home with you, and $1,000 is going to stay in the bank account. And we'll talk about that again in a second. We need to figure out what your minimum pay needs to be as a PM. But our goal is to grow this company to where that PM role has a set pay, a fair market value pay for that PM role that you're paying yourself. And then we're putting money away above and beyond that as company profit. Because as you grow and duplicate and grow, and now I'm going to hire a PM to come in with me, your PM pay is going to go away partially, and you're going to start living off your distributions from the company as an owner. Right? This is how you duplicate and grow yourself out of the company. Is as big as we can make the company pay, the profits coming in and the owner distributions. As soon as I can live off that, I don't need that PM pay. And I can hire guys in, and it's not costing me anything because I can live off my owner distributions. So that's kind of the bigger picture of what we're talking about. But mainly, pay yourself as a project manager. Even if we're growing it and getting to a spot, I want all right, what is going to be my pay? I need $8,000 a month to survive in this market, where we live, my bills. Great, so let's figure out how we get $8,000 a month to you and another $4,000 to $8,000 a month into the company. Let's work these numbers backwards and be like, hey, you're doing $80,000 of revenue a month. Looking at the numbers, you got to be at 180 to make all your numbers work, right? It's all math in the back end to understand where we have to be. You just got to do the work and understand, like, I need $8,000 a month. I need $6,000 a month. I need $12,000, whatever market you're in. Then we got to figure out what the profit is and how much we need to be charging and how much revenue you need to be doing to survive as a company. Make sense?
Totally.
Did I miss anything there? Was anything confusing?
No, I mean, I think I think everything's still up in the air for me right now.
Perfect.
I'm waiting for the landing to stick.
Great. All right. So with everything that I just said, we've got 3 different numbers that you are going to control. You're running this company. There's 3 numbers that you control. Number 1, revenue. How much money can I do? And by controlling that, it's marketing, going out, finding people, calling on old clients, asking your aunts and uncles and parents and friends and old teachers, do they know anyone that needs renovation? It's doing the guerrilla marketing to get out there and find it. Maybe you're starting to run some ads, but that number is fluctuating. It's up and down in terms of the revenue number. The second number, your gross profit percentage on cost of goods, your labor and materials. How much profit am I going to mark that number up? So if I'm doing $100,000 a month in revenue, how much of that is going to be my cost of goods? Normally, we're aiming to land at 32% profit and 68% cost of goods. I think the number that we came up with, I think it's like 40. I think it was 46% of our every dollar we invoice is labor, and then it was like 21.5% of every dollar we invoice is for materials, and then there's 32% profit. That's where we want to end on a bad day. And so those numbers, understanding that, again, that's I ran numbers over 10 years of our company running, and that hit on the healthy times for, I think it was 41, 45, 46, somewhere in there, and then 21, 22% for materials. And some of that is relative. Some guys I'm going to pay one number to my flooring guys, and they do the labor part of it. Cabinets, they do the labor part of it. So that's going to fluctuate the difference. At the end of the day, I want 68%, 67% of my being cost of goods. And I want 32% to be my profit. So that's the second numbers that we have to know and that we can control. The third number is overhead percentage of my revenue. How much are you spending on your truck? How much is insurance? How much are you spending are you renting an office? Do you have employees? Do you have a CPA? Am I a coach for you and I'm on your team with you? Or softwares? All of those expenses, what percentage of that of your overhead? Now, I'm not going to give you a percentage right now because that number is all over the place depending on the size of your company. And the smaller you are, the lower that percentage is, right? On a startup company, when you're really thin, you don't have employees, you're probably going to be around 8 to 9% on that number. Once you get up to a large scale company, you're around 21% on that number. And this is a deeper dive that we're not doing today, but that number is what kills people as they grow. That's the crunch the numbers again, because the bigger you grow, crunch, it doesn't work, right? And so guys get set up and say, well, my overhead's about 8%, and I only got to charge 15%, and I'm making good money. Well, now you got to make it higher. Now your insurance goes from $300 a month to $1,500 a month because you're doing more revenue. And as you grow, your expenses grow, not the same percentage-wise. It's not the same incremental growth as when you're growing the company, because when it's just me, I'm super efficient. When I have 2, 3, 4 project managers, I now have a head of construction, a separate role that is nothing but sucking overhead to manage those guys, to make sure they're doing the paperwork, to make sure they're doing. It's going to be me, but eventually it's going to be somebody else. But when I was previously taking the pay of a project manager, I now have to pay that to a project manager, and I've got to take an additional pay for me to manage that guy, right? And so as we grow the companies, that overhead, the percentage of your profit, which is of overhead, usually grows to about 20, 21%. If I can get it down to 17, 18, we're doing awesome. I remember when we closed down the service division of our company, and this was the reason. We couldn't make enough money on it. We said on the service side, we had 6 trucks on the road, I think, doing service calls and punch out work and that sort of thing. We looked at it and we're like, either we get up to 20 trucks or we get rid of it. But we can't, this in between is killing us. We got to get to the tipping point. And we're like, it's just all of our efforts, overhead, and expenses. It was 50% of our overhead was on that division, and it was like 8% of our revenue.
I remember the exact moment
in the hotel room.
Yeah. And it was like, okay.
I remember you and Jared sitting on the couch, and I was pacing. I was like, I think we just fire everybody and close it down. And I was like, well, yeah. I don't know any other way to do it. And we didn't. It wasn't clearing house, but we did lose a handful of guys, and we moved a couple over to project manager. Right, we kind of shifted things around, but we were looking at our numbers, and the only reason we made that decision, which was the smartest decision we made in like a 5-year period, that was the smartest decision we made at that time, was because we knew our numbers and could look at it and say, my heart says I want to keep this division. My pride wants to keep 3 divisions in this company and all these guys, and I see my trucks on the road and people text me that they saw my truck. Like, my pride wants to keep all this, but when I'm looking at it, why are we doing this? Like, what's the point? I remember being like, this amount of, it's 50%. I was like, we're making hundreds of dollars a month on this arm, right? Like, it was like, this is not, what are we doing here?
Yeah, one screw up, one Bobby Boucher
idiot
driving down the road,
driving down the road drinking a Bud Light, and someone calls in and says, hey, your driver is
literally drinking and driving,
and an accident there shuts the whole company down. Right. And so it's risk versus reward on that, as well as looking and knowing our numbers and saying, this is all of our overhead. Like, if we cut this, let's run the numbers, we'll be at 15% of our overhead is 15% of our revenue, which was a great number to get to. But you have to document everything. You have to do a year's worth of QuickBooks perfectly to understand and see those numbers. It's small steps getting there. So I digress. Those numbers you got to know. And so when I'm starting with guys, and really it's this time of year that we're going to start doubling down in all the coaching sessions, that my really it's November. I started in October, but November, December, guys start slowing down, right? The March through August, September, guys are just slammed. And so I'm trying to hold on for dear life, trying to get them to move a couple inches down the football field every single month. October, November, December is like, we're going to understand your numbers. And when we turn the corner into January, you're going to be, everything's going to be doing it the right way. I want to reset. I want January 1st, your QuickBooks to be perfect. I want your processes in place. And this is where we can pick up some extra yardage going down the field, because you've got an extra 5 sports. How do I say it for you to understand it?
You say you're catching a bunch of Pokemon. You have as many Pokemon as you can find. There's the Pikachus. There's the Charmanders. You know these ones.
You know this. So again, it's, if you're listening to this and you're listening to it live as it released and you're not listening to it 6 months later, this is a great time of year. October, November, December is the time of year to start doubling down and say, okay, I've slowed down a little bit. Take a breath. But let's spend an hour a week organizing your QuickBooks. And if you don't know what you should be doing, let's get on a call. I hate how much I know QuickBooks because I help you out a lot with it. But this is the time to where to set up those processes. You're not going to fix it overnight. You're not going to get everything organized. But if we start by November 1st, everything trying to run the right way, we work out the kinks, and by January we turn the corner and every job is being tracked. We can see the numbers, I can see my revenue, I can see all of that stuff, and it's really clean, and you're launching into 2026. This is also something that we're going to work on. If you're not in coaching, but you want to come on the retreat in January, this is I give 3 free sessions between now and, well, depending on when you're listening to this, it's about 1 a month from now until the retreat. So if you sign up in December, you're getting 1 free session. But if you're signing up now in October, you're going to get 3 free sessions that I'm going to do some coaching going into the retreat, because I want you to understand these numbers, and I want to get to a spot where we understand what you're doing. So when you hit the ground running at the retreat, we're not trying to sort through all your QuickBooks and figure out your numbers, but you're showing up with, okay, this is where I'm starting. What do we need a game plan for next year?
Yeah, if you go into the retreat without that information, you're going to do yourself a pretty big disservice.
Yeah. You're spending the whole time figuring that out where everyone else is solving the problem of it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's something, if you're thinking on coming on the retreat, or if you're not and you just want some help, reach out. Let me know. I'd love to meet with you on that. All right, so this might be where we simplify some of this, or it might be more complicated.
Okay.
Let's go through an example.
I'll let you know.
Let's go through an example. I'm going to use some real world numbers that I wrote out. I tried to be as simplistic as possible, so I've got them written down. So here's the example of what I'm talking about. Let's say your revenue is $100,000 a month. You might be half that. You might be triple that. It doesn't matter. Let's just use these as numbers. $100,000 a month of revenue.
Yep.
Let's say, for number's sake, your gross profit is $30,000 on that. which means it's a markup of about 37% to have a 30% profit. I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, why would you even say that?
I'm so sorry.
Why would you even say that? Because that math doesn't math for 95% of people.
I know. We'll just go back.
And now, if you really want to get nutty, if you graph this out, the hypotenuse is unreal.
It's the difference of markup and gross profit and gross margin. I'm not going to get into it.
Are you?
I really want. Okay. Yeah. So let's say you made $30,000 on $100,000. Mm-hmm. Your gross profit, your
to me,
margin,
that's 30%.
Your margin, your gross profit is 30%.
Okay.
But if you only did $70,000 of work, I'm going into it, and you mark it up 30%. 30% of 70 is 21,000. So you actually made 91,000 total revenue.
Okay.
Because you made 21 instead of 30. Anyways,
let's back it up.
Let's back it up.
Revenue's 100,000.
Revenue's 100,000.
Gross profit's 30.
$30,000.
30% margin.
Yes. Of that, let's say
that 30?
Of that 30,000.
Okay.
Your overhead is very conservative. You've done well. You don't have a $1,200 a month truck payment. Your overhead is $7,000 a month. So you're spending $7,000 a month. You're a one-man show. That's insurance. That's gas. That's where we don't have an office in there. That is just overhead, not including what you're paying yourself. That's just the overhead of the company. Maybe you spent $800 on some ads. You place something in a paper, whatever it is. $7,000 of overhead. Then
let me stop you there.
Yeah, please.
You're doing this as an example of an owner, and that's why you're not including what you're paying yourself inside of the overhead.
This is the project manager style. I'm a general contractor, one man show, and I'm running a bunch of jobs.
And I own this is my
I'm
company,
the owner.
right?
I'm the owner of the company. I'm a one man show. This is not in the field. It's hard to do $100,000 a month swinging a hammer by yourself on one job at a time. I'm project managing. I got 3 to 4 jobs running at a time, maybe bump up to 5 to 6 on the busy seasons.
But
I have no employees.
No employees. You're the owner of the company. That's why you're not including your
paycheck.
Money, your paycheck into the overhead.
Well, yes, but overhead. Well, yes. Let me say the next sentence because it is $7,000 of overhead outside of the salary, and then a $5,000 project manager salary for yourself. So our total overhead's $12,000. But I wanted to be distinct that 5 of that is going to me, and 7 of it's covering all of our overhead expenses. Now, I count that all as overhead. On my line, it says overhead $7K plus PM salary $5K. Total overhead is $12K. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's a $12,000 overhead. It's 12% overhead right now.
Net profit is 18.
Net profit, operating profit is $18,000. You're following the math. Thank you. So we got $18,000 after I pay myself $5,000. Most guys spend $7,000 and they've got 23 there, and they're like, cool, I'm going to take 15 of that.
It's 21.
21 there. Thank you. So, and they say, I'm just going to take half that. I'm going to take whatever it is. We're throw that thinking out the window. $7,000 is my overhead. $5,000 I'm paying a project manager. Luckily, I've hired myself. I'm a really good PM, and I've hired myself to be the PM at my company. Mm-hmm. Right? We want the 2 different hats. I got my owner hat, I got my project manager hat,
and my hard ass hat.
So overhead's $12,000, and my profit is $18,000. Now, next thing we want to do, and we'll talk about how to do this in the next podcast, is of the $18,000 sitting there, I want to take 25% and put it into a tax savings account. Some guys pay taxes weekly, monthly, some are quarterly, some are annually. I don't care how you do it. It's easier to do it annually because you have, I don't want to have 3 really good months and pay high taxes and then 3 really bad months and have nothing. I'd rather do it annually, but it's so hard because you got to save. You might have a $40,000 tax bill, and if you're not good at saving, you're going to screw yourself.
Well, let me add one thing to this.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I've done for mine.
Please.
Just high yield savings account.
Yep.
You don't put it into like money market or whatever.
Yep.
High yield savings account. and just let that grow. You'll make a couple $100.
Yes.
And then that money is not yours, though. You're going to plan on spending that with Uncle Sam.
Yes. And one thing that I did wrong, exactly what you just said, was this was a number of years ago, not too far, I mean, probably 5 or 6 years ago. I had that account, right? Just wasn't touched. My buddy was over talking about Robinhood and how he was doing investing. I was like, well, I got 40 grand sitting over in this account waiting that Uncle Sam's let me borrow till the end of the year. And so I started investing it, and it went down. I lost like $5,000. It was like right before COVID. And I was like, ugh. So I had to come out of pocket at the end of the year to cover and it was like, ugh, I got to find 10 grand out of my pocket just to cover my taxes that I owe because I was trying to be cute with my savings. So again,
I got burned by designer pogs.
I remember that you lost your house on that. That was
I lost
sad.
my entire house.
That is sad.
I have the sick pog collection.
It is. I mean, that one slammer that you have that's like gold encrusted. It was amazing, dude. Amazing. Anyways, put that away. It's not your money. Don't touch it. Sit it there. If you are not good, know yourself. If you're not good with money management, try to pay monthly taxes. Try to pay quarterly taxes. Get that out of your hands. Get it to Uncle Sam. But we're pulling that out. That means we have left over. After we had 18,000, we pulled 45 out of it. 13,500
times 3.
$13,500 is left in the company account, right? And so what I want to do, my rule of thumb on this is at the end of the month, you can go 50-50. I'm doing a 50% owner distribution and a 50% retained earnings in that account. That means $6,750 comes to me. $6,750 stays in the account. If you are fine with that $5,000 a month salary and want to leave more in the account, I love you for it. If you need more than that $11,700,
itching to buy some pogs.
And honestly, like what kills all of this is the debts. If you borrow money, if you owe people, that throws a wrench in all of this. And so more guys than not that I coach have some debt servicing. And this was one of my biggest mistakes in growing, like learn from this as a contractor that did it wrong. I remember 2014, I took out like a $400,000 loan, just like, oh, if we had it, like we're growing, we're doing this, we're buying trucks, and it's the noose around the growth's neck, having that payment, having a $8,000. I mean, we were at one point, I think we had about $14,000 a month servicing debts alone, which is like, could you imagine if we grew a little slower, didn't have those debts, and had $14,000 a month to put into growth?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just, I mean, it's drugs. It's just a little bit. Well, and I'll pay that back with this, and that job's about to hit. And I got that huge $500,000 one that is starting in January.
Yeah.
Don't spend next month's money profits this month. Wait, be patient for a freaking month. And when that money comes in, then you get to spend it. So that's my warning on this. But what we want to do is we want to separate out $5,000 a month for the project manager pay. Again, what's a good project manager pay in your neck of the woods? $5,000 a month is terrible in Los Angeles. $5,000 a month is great in Macon, Georgia, right? Like it depends on where you live as to what that number should be. And all of these numbers should scale with that as well.
And the level of renovations or work that's taking place.
Yeah. If I'm not going to get a project manager that's doing new builds for me at $5,000 a month.
No. But if you're working with a bunch of REITs,
doing investment turns, quick flips. I don't need you as educated. I need you to be a grinder, and you can get in there, do the work, get out of there. Yeah. So again, the main thing that we're trying to drive in here is we need to know where those dollars are going. And it's not this clean. It's never this clean, because it's not like I do work, I get all my money in, I can figure out which accounts to go, and then I can do the next job. That's not how it works. So understanding this is level 1. Level 2 is how do we make this hit when the rubber hits the road, when I'm actually sitting down on a Friday looking at this stuff. So we're not going to talk about that this week. That's next week. We're going to get into that. Ending this podcast right now, we've said a lot of stuff. I hope it's been not that complicated. There's 3 things I have for you to do starting today. Do it this week. Try to start doing these things and come back next week and listen to the podcast. Number 1, if you are doing your own labor, price your labor as if you're hiring someone else to do it, and then hire yourself, right? I'm going to charge $3,000 for this job. I'd pay my labor $2,000 on this. I'm going to be that labor though. I'm going to take that money, and I made the $2,000 and I got an extra $1,000 that the company's making. Number 2, identify your margin profits and your margin percentage and overhead percentage. So I have this much I spend on overhead. It's 8% of what I normally do on average month over month of revenue. I have this much I spend. My margin is normally about 25% profit. Now I'm marking my jobs up 25%. When at the end of the month, I've made about 25% profit on the jobs I've invoiced. And of that, I'm spending 10% of overhead on it, which at that point, I want you to include your PM salary because that's part of that overhead number. And so knowing those numbers, you're not going to be able to figure out until your books are clean, but let's start moving that way. So the goal is to know those numbers by January. So what do we do? How do we do that? Job costing. I'm tying every material purchase to the job. I'm paying every crew. Even if I've got an hourly guy, there's a way to do that to where he might go to 3 different jobs. I will show you. I did it literally on Tuesday with one of our coaching clients in Chicago. This is how we do. We pay for this job, and this job in the software. We make it. We pay him the check. However you do it, you need to track where your money's going so we can see profitability per job as well as the company. What I really, really hate is guys say, yeah, my CPA just handles that for me. All your CPA is doing is saying
materials.
You spent $70,000, you invoiced $90,000, you made $20,000, and that's not the case because you might have spent $70,000 and invoiced $90,000, but of that $90,000, you have a $30,000 invoice that you haven't spent on yet because it was the deposit for the next job. So in reality, you can't count that, right? In reality, I invoiced $60 and on $70 spend, right? And so that's what the problem is. The way CPAs do it is to keep you upright with the government, which is a very important thing. That doesn't work in construction. It doesn't work, and it works for a lot of companies. It doesn't work here because our month-over-month invoicing doesn't equal our month-over-month spending. We invoice sporadically. I get deposits on the last day of this month and spend all the money of the first week of next month or vice versa. So you can't trust your numbers if your CPA is doing it. You can trust it that you're paying your taxes. You can't trust that the job costs and understand your numbers by just looking at what your CPA is doing in the background. You have to control your numbers. So we want to start this week. How do we start doing that? How do we start tying our numbers and identifying what our labor is, what our materials are, and what our overhead is? How do we categorize that in QuickBooks or whatever software you're using? And then the last thing, I want you to start breaking down, honestly, don't even do that. Let's start with these 2 things. Let's go make sure you're paying yourself and money on as profit for the company. And let's identify your margin in your 3 different areas, your revenue, profit, expenses, as well as how much your overhead is of your cost of goods. Doing those things before next week's podcast will be helpful because next week we're going to break down once you're making money, once you're starting to do this stuff, how do we manage it? And James and I are going to talk about how in our companies, how we actually pay ourselves, how that works and what you should be doing. So hope you enjoyed part 1. Anything that we need clarity on before we go, James?
No.
Mike Michalowski. I have it in my notes. Profit first author.
Mike Michalowski.
Michalowski.
Mike Michalowski? That's made up.
Michalowski.
Mike.
Michalowicz.
But like Mike Michalowski.
Oh, Michalowicz. What do you say?
Michalowicz?
I don't know. It's a good book. That's all I know. All right. If you want coaching, if you want to meet this week with me, go to the website, go to contractorcuts.com. You can sign up for this for a meeting with me. If you want to come on the retreat, we don't have a retreat sign up online yet, ever. You have to have a 30-minute meeting with me to make sure you're fit for this retreat. I want to make sure your mind's right. I want to prep. I want to understand you. We have max 30 people coming on this. And so if you want to come, we only have a few slots left at this point, which is great. Last year we filled up December 15th. Right now we're getting close to full, which is fantastic. But if you want in, reach out. Let's have a conversation about it. We can start coaching this week or next week. And start with some of this basic stuff to get you rolling. So when you hit the retreat in January, you're killing it. So that's the goal. If you want to talk, contractorcuts.com or prostruck360.com. Both of them go to the same spot. Love to talk to you, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.